Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of Between the Ears. We are kicking off Kansas week, and but before we get into that, we're going to talk a little bit more about what happened on Saturday at Acrisure Stadium as West Virginia fell to the Pitt Panthers 38-34. What this means for the big picture, the Big 12, and all that stuff. So, Chris, I think we could all agree that kind of going into the season, we all pretty much said like if West Virginia gets through non-conference play with a 2-1 record, that would be pretty much on par for what you would expect to happen. You'd expect to lose to Penn State. You would expect to beat Albany, and you would expect to beat Pitt. Now, it's been almost a complete 180 from what you really wanted because you weren't even competitive against Penn State. You kind of struggled with Albany there for a little bit. And then Pitt, you had a 10-point lead and blew it in the final 4 minutes of the game. So is it time to hit the panic button? Because I think I think we're well past that point, at least in terms of this season. Because I don't know with this schedule coming up if there's even a clear path to getting bowl eligible.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm ready to hit the pay button quit, but man, my hand is on it and ready to hit it because, yeah, I mean, here's one of the reasons I'm not hitting it is they came out the second half and they were able to just stuff the Pitt defense. I think the main concern is that, no matter what kind of success West Virginia has, they let off the gas. Like, they just take the foot off the gas, and they didn't have anyone in the game. And it's just one of those psychological things. Pitt students were leaving, the Pitt fans were leaving, West Virginia fans started leaving when they went up 10-0, because Pitt hadn't done nothing in the second half, and you could just kind of see it that it wasn't the same type of defense that was out there. Um, because it wasn't that they gave up, but you could just see that they felt that they had it in their grasp. And we've talked about how this still young this program is and everything and all that goes into it, but there's still some senior leadership there that shouldn't allow that to happen.
Yep.
And then when the offense that you were hoping that could carry it came out and laid a dud, there was a missed assignment, and then I think what kind of got me a little bit was Neil Brown saying the second down play is what it is. Well, that's to me that's where you should have given to your quarterback to make a play, do something other than just going conventional. So there's kind of a lot to go into it. Now they were upbeat, at the press conference. They all seemed upbeat, whatever. But that's only a few players and a few members of the coaching staff. So yeah, it looks good on the front, but I think you got to be concerned because they were hyped going into the Penn State game. Okay, it doesn't work out. Things kind of fell off. But when you kind of get things corrected and you had the game one at Pitt and man, you start 1-2. Yes, everything's in front of you, but how can you have confidence after that?
Yeah.
So, maybe there's confidence in the fact that they know they could win, but that's, to me, not a good Pitt team. Holstein's a good player. We'll see how that kind of plays out to see as the season rolls along. But man, that's got to be heart wrenching. But yeah, everything's still in front of them. Maybe they can just scrape it together. But you're going to go against a quarterback who is also struggling. If he goes out and has another all-star performance against you, I mean, just wrap it up. Like it's bad after that.
Yeah, that to me is the biggest concern is this week's game, and I never try to paint games as a must win. I kind of did a little bit last week with the backyard brawl just because you wanted to avoid this situation that you're in right now. But this is as must win as it gets right now early in the season because we're at that magical mark right now in the season, Chris. Like this is game 4. And we've seen it all across the country. And I'm not saying that it's going to happen. I'm just saying there's a possibility if you lose this game, there could be some guys that look around and say, 1-3. I really don't want to waste a year of eligibility. If I have a red shirt, I might just sit out the rest of the season and then transfer. That's very real. Like that's a very real threat if you lose this game this weekend. But to go back a little bit to the non-conference thing, it's been bad. It's been really bad at times. But I think the one thing that well, I guess the two things really that you can kind of find some solace in is one, not everyone is playing two Power Four teams in non conference play. Unfortunately, you did, and you lost both of them. but not everyone is. So in future years, this isn't going to happen. Ren Baker is going to make sure that you're only playing one Power Four team a year, and it's more than likely going to be Pitt. So most instances, you're probably going to come out of this 2-1, maybe 3-0. Obviously, that's not the case this year. But for this year, you still have the Big 12 to go. Like you have 9 games, and the way that I don't know, fans don't want to look at it like this because they see what they've seen on the field, and they don't think there's any way, any chance in hell that they're going to do anything in the Big 12. I agree with that. I understand it. From the players and coaches side of it, they look at it as this is the start of a new season. Those first 3 games, they're done and over with. They're buried, put in the shredder. This is a chance for them to start anew, and they still have a way to get to the college football playoff. As crazy as it seems, they can still get there. It starts this Saturday, and if it doesn't work or doesn't play, they don't play well again, then I think that's really when you hit the panic button, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it starts Saturday. You can get some confidence Saturday. Kansas has been good the last few years. They've struggled. UNLV all of a sudden in the group of five that can make the playoff because of their win. But yeah, it really does start Saturday. I think the big concern is if they beat Kansas, do they get fat headed again? Have that success they can't handle.
Exactly.
So it's maybe 1 and 2 is a good thing for them as far as the Big 12. You hate to say
Humble them
that,
a little
but
bit.
being humbled a little bit. But we'll see. I don't know if the offense has enough to build on for success. Greenmate hasn't performed that I think we all hoped that he would. Um, CJ looked like CJ in the big game, breaking tackles and everything that you expect CJ to do. But the offense is a miss still a little bit. I haven't seen a lot of action out of the Jaheim White out of the backfield in the passing game. Um, and really haven't seen that consistency from receivers yet. Although I thought they played better than what I think they're getting credit for
Yeah.
against Pitt. But they're starting to bring in some tough catches and making some plays that you expect them to make. So there's everything still ahead of them. Um, you know, this 5 game gauntlet is still tough, still daunting. Maybe not as daunting as it looked going in, but it's still you got to travel to Arizona and everywhere else, Oklahoma State. So yeah, it's going to be tough. Confidence wise, I think it's up in the air. After Saturday, I would have said no. They have zero confidence, but that's why there's coaches. That's why they have everybody in there.
Plus, we
So
live in a different
we'll see.
era too. Like if this was 20
Yeah,
years ago, these kids would be heartbroken, shredded and to pieces. These kids, they have a memory of a goldfish sometimes. Like they're over it and done with it because that's just how kids are nowadays. They don't sit there and dwell about it maybe as much as they did
there's
years
too
ago.
much going on.
Yeah.
Way too much going on in football now for them to sit and dwell on it. There's too much ahead of them. Heck, 2 years ago or last year, this does them in, right? No chance of the playoff, even winning the Big 12. So now you can kind of just, okay, not all is lost. We can still get the playoffs. We can still be a top four team
Yeah.
by winning the Big 12. So yeah,
That's
you can kind of
crazy.
put that in the back in the foreground because essentially now preseason. This is essentially a preseason. You should have all the kinks worked out. You should have everything. So yeah, frustrating, very frustrating group right now. But I think this may be a group that can bounce back. It's to be determined. But yeah, I don't know if the confidence is there, especially in the secondary. And they're going to be throwing a lot of different bodies out there. So maybe they can fix it. They had it fixed there for a while, and it just kind of fell off. And maybe that was just overconfident at that point. So we'll see. Maybe they can just put it all together. Because again, as frustrating it is, this is that secondary is all them. This is their first time within this scheme,
Yeah.
and I think it just. I don't want to go back to recapping the game, but uh, you kind of knew going into this month that offense had to make plays in key moments, and they didn't. So I think that if there's, yes, secondary is probably confidence, but I think they kind of knew what they were going to get into the first month. But I think offensively, not winning the game with the ball in hands may be the bigger problem. Yes, they put up points, but we'll see. To me, it's a wait and see, but it's hard to see how much confidence they had with how everything ended on Saturday.
It sounds weird for me to say it, but like it kind of felt like at points in that second half, they may have found some answers. And I don't know that it's anything that's going to spill over into this week or not because it's a completely different style of offense. But I think they found some answers. And what we've seen with the secondary is like they've had some moments where they've played well. Even go back to the Penn State game. I thought Garnett Hollis played really well. He gave up a couple of catches in that game, but he made some really tough play or made it really tough on Drew Aller, who just threaded the needle on a couple of occasions. We've seen some flashes from other guys at corner too. Like those guys have played good football in the past and they've done it for multiple years. So you'd think at some point, like they're going to do that again. You just don't know when or in what capacity. That's for Jordan Leslie and Neil Brown to figure out, especially when they have all these new guys coming in, whether it be TJ Crandall or Jacoby Spells. They want to get in the mix, but there's got to be a way that they can utilize and deploy these guys to get them to playing at the level they expect. And I think we saw some version of that, not necessarily out of those guys, but out of the defense. And yeah, I don't know, but I mean, you look at the schedule and Kansas this week. We'll get into them a little bit more tomorrow, but they're a team that's struggling too. Like Jalen Daniels has thrown 6 interceptions. He is struggling without Andy Kotelnicki and you get them at home. It's a team that you probably don't think is going to throw the ball a whole lot on you, which kind of bodes well in your favor. And then you have a bye. Bye couldn't have come at a better time. If you win the game, you're going into the bye 2-2. You have a chance to kind of hit the reset button, figure some more things out. Meanwhile, Oklahoma State, which is your next game, it's on the road, they have Utah and Kansas State in their next 2 games leading up to you. Not saying you're going to go to Stillwater and win, but if there's a perfect way for the schedule to fall up for you against Oklahoma State, that's the way you'd want it. And then you come back home for 2 home games. So, in a way, it's very daunting, but in a way, it kind of sets up nicely for you if you take care of business. And I'm with you. Like, here's the panic button. Here's my hand. I'm hovering over it. Like it's ready to hit. It's ready to just
My
smash
hand is
that
on
thing.
it. My hand is on it. I'll
Yeah,
say my
maybe that's a
hand's on
better
it
word.
this time.
It's
And
on.
a big boost for this defense was just catch 20 interceptions.
Yeah,
Daniels has thrown 6 interceptions already. You're going to have opportunities. Hauled in. They
absolutely.
would have had 7-0. You know, Jordan Leslie said it.
Pick six.
You put that pick six, all of a sudden that defense feeling real good about themselves. So they just got to make plays. They did in the second half. Some things he cleaned up along the defensive front. You know, again, I don't think that's a good pit team, but you're seeing progress along the front. Thought the pass rush would be a little bit ahead of schedule. 4 sacks, obviously a big deal in the backyard brawl. Don't want to discredit that guy. T.J. Jackson. I mean, he had 7.5 tackles for loss last year. He's already got 7. He's leading the NCAA now. So yeah, there's plenty to be optimistic about. Again, they held Pitt. I think it was -4 in the third quarter of total yards, 6 yards by
Had what,
the
three,
time
three
those
and
final
outs?
2 drives. Yeah, so it's there. You can see that they can do it. You just got to put it together 4 quarters. So again, get the offense to understand that they have to win the game with the ball in their hands. Um, Especially in that. I mean, obviously it was in that big game. If they can understand that going into Kansas this week, and they can carry that throughout the Big 12 schedule, they could probably start blowing out teams because the defense will eventually catch up. They got to understand. I mean, this should not be a surprise to anybody, the coaches, anybody. Got to win with the ball in hands. Can't play conservative if your defense is going to stop. We've seen them collapse already. So if you don't learn from that, yeah, it's going to be a very long Big 12 slate.
Yeah, I mean, as hard as it is to sit there and digest what happened last week, you got to look at it as it's a one-game season every week. And I know it's so cliche; it's a cliche thing for them to say, "I
I
got to go
hate that
1-0 every
cliche.
week."
Want to know, want to know, want
Yeah,
to know. It's the worst. Everyone hates it everywhere.
you got to go 1-0 every week. I heard it from Joe Brady when he was with the Carolina Panthers, and that he said that like 18 times a press
Panthers
conference.
mine should be 0-1
Oh,
because that's all they
yeah,
are. Oh, what a rough
just
organization.
0-0. Let's find a way to just tie. But
Good
yeah, I
luck.
mean, it is a way for them to kind of move forward and kind of have that goldfish memory like I talked about because as bad as things have looked, You still have everything that you want to accomplish still set in front of you. Until that moment happens where you're mathematically eliminated, you're still in this thing. So no matter what we say, no matter what the fans think or say, you are still in this thing until you're not. So play like it. But Kansas, we'll have some more on them tomorrow on the keys to the game, how West Virginia beats Kansas. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on our YouTube page at West Virginia on SI. Give us a follow on X at SI_WVU. For Christopher Hall, I'm Schuyler Callihan. Thank you for watching another episode of Between Years. We'll catch you back here tomorrow.